Hello and welcome to episode 529 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP, and join me as always as the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew, because, well, rugby league is always good when New South Wales wins.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that New South Wales, they just love Victoria. And maybe
no one else does.
Maybe Victoria loves New South Wales. Did
you hear that the ground announcer at the game was like getting them to cheer for Queensland?
I'm not surprised. That's always sort of been a bit of a thing down here because so many of the Melbourne Storm players are Queenslanders. Well, in the past anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of always been there. But it didn't really work.
No, it didn't. But I tell you what, that first half of football by New South Wales that ended up with them leading 34-0 at half-time, that's the best half of State of Origin football, or the most dominant half of State of Origin football I've ever seen by any team. Absolutely incredible. And like going into half-time, I was thinking like every single one of the Blues players that had played on the field at that point were absolutely killing it. And Queensland really just didn't have a chance. And it made me think about the way that the game is set up at the moment where kicks can't really be contested as much as they used to be. And are we getting into a point with the game where, and we see it with Penrith, where you can just play the percentages, and if you can get a couple of penalties going your way, play the percentages and maybe get a mistake or two here or there, you are going to completely dominate because it's very difficult to get a turnover of possession these days through means that we used to use, like a high kick and things like that.
I think that's what we're finding with the modern game is that you have to have a very strong, consistent, reliable defence to work with. Mm-hmm. And then, when attack, you just run basic systems plays, so building pressure just by, good possession and then getting yourself in good field position and trying to maintain that as much as possible. And then you just end up, just through doing that, you'll eventually end up either receiving penalties or getting repeat sets. And eventually the opportunities are just going to come. You're just going to score points.
Yeah.
And what Penrith do is they like to get out to, like a 3-try lead. Doesn't necessarily have to be 18 points. It could be 14 points, but they get out to a 3-try lead. And then they just go through their systems, through their motions. They just do it simple as that. And it wasn't too different for New South Wales today. The game was still kind of in the balance for the first 25 minutes, even though at that stage New South Wales had just scored their third try.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when they scored that third try that you genuinely looked at it and went, Queensland looks done.
Yeah. And they couldn't get out of their own way. And that's the thing that got me is like in that first half hour of the game, for instance, there wasn't a huge amount wrong that Queensland did. And it shows how good New South Wales played, that they took, when they had a chance, they took them for the most part. And there was no real way for Queensland to turn that around. And it just made me think about the rule set we've got. Like you think about it, you can't really contest a high bomb unless you want to risk a penalty. Like you've basically got to get that ball in your hands like Zach Lomax did. Otherwise you're going to give away a penalty. You can't really kick it into the in goals because if it goes dead, you give away 7 tackles. So straight away, that's a big part of the attacking game is really like cut right down that you can't really use like we used to, and that would result in possible things happening and this X factor in the game where anything can really happen. You kind of take that away and it really does push for teams to play the percentages a lot more because of those rules in place.
It's a funny thing you say that though, because it feels to me that the rule changes that they brought in, so the 7 tackle set, the not being able to contest a bomb, on a player defending the kick, so to speak.
Yeah.
Was kind of almost like they were thinking when they brought them in that one of the things that's going to come out of this is less kicks close to the line. So we might get to see more entertaining, skillful football where, passing and that sort of stuff and line running stuff is going to come to the fore. But the problem you get with that is if you throw up a Hail Mary kick, you're basically, so long as the kick is contested to some extent, you're basically a 50-50 chance of getting the ball back.
Yeah.
Whereas passing the ball and running little block plays and stuff like that, you're going to turn the ball over more often than not just because it's the end of the set. And you won't score very often from doing it either. So why not go the 50-50 play? And that's exactly what teams do. That's why they keep putting it up. It's just a higher percentage play, even though it's partly fluke, to be honest.
But like in the last, say, 2 years, for instance, have you ever seen in the whole rest of the time you've ever watched rugby league, have you ever seen more teams just being like attacking the opposition line and just deciding to take legitimately, not going for a try, but legitimately saying, okay, we'll just take the tackle here and make them go 95 metres?
Sometimes, but it's because of where the game is at.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's not a strategy thing when the game is still in the balance or it's 0-0 or something like that.
I've seen Penrith do it. I've seen Penrith, early in the game, take a tackle and make them go 95 metres.
To me, it makes sense, especially if, you run the ball to their corner. So you know that the only way they're going to go is back into the middle. So you can get your defensive line quicker than they can get their attacking line set, which means they've burnt 2 to 3 tackles before they can start getting ready for a play. And even by the time they've done that, they're still deep in their own half and the defensive line is already set. That's the thing Penrith does really well. But I don't see teams outside of Penrith doing it really that often at all. And when they do it, it's usually when the game is decided to some extent, or it's close-ish, but the clock is too close. Could be 18-12 with just a minute to go. We're not going to take a 50-50 play here. We're just going to run it, slow it down, put them in the corner, and just die with the ball in our hands on the last and make them work 95 metres out from the bloody corner somewhere.
Yeah. I just worry that it might be, you might be taking away a 5% chance here, 5% chance there, but you do that enough, all of a sudden you've taken 50% of the opportunity of another team to get a turnover, so you get rid of, say, scrums, like we've got rid of for the most part, where you can just take a tap on a bunch of things. A scrum you might win a scrum against defeat 2% of the time. But if you take that 2% of the time away over, say, 8 scrums in a game, and then you take away a team wanting to kick in goal, so in case they give away 7 tackles set, and then you take away, even if it's 15% of the ability to contest a high bomb across field. Do you see what I mean? It cuts down on all of a sudden the percentages start to lean towards play super safe football, and it also goes towards not having the ability to get the ball back if you're in a bad position. And that's what stood out to me with this game, is that Queensland was in a bad position and they didn't really have an opportunity to turn it around. And yes, New South Wales were playing great, but it made me think, is that what we want out of the game, where if a team is just really good, you can't do anything about it? And I'm not sure that it is.
I think too, though, and this is the other problem we have with the game, is if a team feels like their chance of withholding a team's attack by defending their own line, and the reason why, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, I guess, is why is it that teams give away penalties or set restarts when they're on their own line? And that's because they don't have to run back 10 metres, right? So they're not burning too much energy, and they get their defensive line set immediately. So it's easier to defend when you're on your line. It is so much easier to do. And it puts so much more pressure on the attacking line. That's why if you get a penalty and you're 1 metre from the line, you don't take the tap from there. You bring it back 10 metres so you give yourself a bit of space.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. So part of the problem that Queensland had is this old mentality. And I'm talking about 3-4 years ago, where you give away penalties on your own line. The Roosters used to do this a lot when they were making Grenfell stuff. Is You just sit there and just give away penalties on your own line. Just keep giving them away, and until the team in attack throws the ball away.
Mm-hmm.
Having the luxury to rely on your defence to do that and make it work more often than not is a luxury very few clubs can have. But some clubs still do it just out of habit, and it's not as effective these days anymore. And I think part of what Queensland did tonight, especially in that first half, was they went back into that habit of giving away set restarts or penalties. Not a lot, but sometimes they did it when they were already under pressure on their own line. Their ball handling was not as good as it should have been. It wasn't atrocious, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. They were trying to do too much when trying to get out of their own half, pushing passes occasionally, just little things that they were doing in the hope that it might come off. They were low percentage plays. If they come off, there's a big reward. And to an extent, you kind of have to at some point do that. But it was just compounding too much.
I noticed
just let them down hard.
Yeah, they did, and I noticed one thing they were doing early in the first half. So we're getting New South Wales to compress their defence in the middle of the field.
Correct.
And then they were going across the Crichton side. They made a half break very early on in the game doing that, and it was interesting because Crichton went back and started sliding a bit, but Lomax started backpedaling, which is what you don't do, right? And Queensland made a little bit of room down that side. And it stood out to me a little bit, but I thought to myself, like, first of all, New South Wales' defence shouldn't have been compressed as it was in the middle of the field. It was way too compressed. But if your idea of getting somewhere is to attack Stephen Crichton and his defence, you're not going to get very far, even if his winger isn't doing a great deal of defending himself.
Although there was one moment in I think it was the first half. Yeah, it might have been in the first half where it might have been the first or second time that Queensland went left and they found a bit of space, and they went back towards the middle, and they were compressed more on the right-hand side to the middle. Sorry, no, it was their left-hand side. And Crichton rushed up before the second receiver got the ball. And then, because he moved up so quickly, he then had to stand there. And he rushed up because he wanted to shut down the play going any further outside him because he knew Lomax had already dropped back.
Yeah.
So he's trying to shut down the play, but he timed his runs very poorly. So he rushed up too fast and then stopped. And then DCE put, I think it was Nanai, through a gap between the compressed defence and the gap that Crichton had created by rushing up too fast.
Yeah.
But the thing you find is he did not make that same fucking mistake again.
No. And that's the thing. And you see, I felt like defensively and overall there was a lot of the Penrith, even attacking DNA in this team. And like you see the way that Penrith will play defence with their outside backs, like they will move up, but normally the winger comes up with you. And if you get around them, like the players that are on the inside of those players are normally already coming across in cover defence. Like that's one of the things about the Penrith defence. Their cover defence is outrageous. But I saw a lot of what Penrith did in this game, which was interesting. And obviously you get to a threshold where there's so many of the Panthers in the side, and you're going to get that. But, overall, like it felt like this team was a little bit better balanced going in to the match, and it looked like that on the field as well. I'm talking about New South Wales here. And I tell you what, Mitch Moses, and I'm starting to crush a little bit on Mitch Moses recently, and I think it disgusts you deep down. Like I think you feel worse of me now than you did even like 3 weeks ago because of it. He's 29. He's got a lot of experience, and he just played a fucking amazing State of Origin game for a halfback to the point where he won the Man of the Match award. I gave him a 9 on my ratings.
Can I blow your mind?
No, you're not going to say it, are you?
I am. I think tonight
was
the best game I've ever seen him play.
Oh, I think it was too. Just a complete game.
And I'll go even further.
Yep.
I don't think Cleary would have done a better job than him tonight.
I honestly, the only way you could have done better than he did, and I texted this to Nadine, is if it was like one of those Wally Lewis, Andrew Johns, Paul Gallen on the, like those sorts of performances. Cleary did have one of those in an Origin match. But yeah, it would have to be like Cleary doing that again. Like Moses was outstanding in attack, in defence, his kicking game, his organising, everything.
His organising and his defence can at times be hit and miss.
Yeah.
But his defence tonight was the best I've ever seen it in his career.
Yeah.
He shut down Dearden so hard. And that was vital because Dearden ran havoc in that first game.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And he shut him down so hard. I think he caused Dearden to have at least 2 turnovers, maybe even
at least
3.
2. Yeah.
He gave him no room. None at all.
Are you in with me a little bit on the Moses redemption arc?
I want to see a bit more. I don't want to dive in too early.
Yeah, I'm not saying he is on a redemption arc. I'm just saying, like, I went from like, I kind of am watching him and I'm like, we talked about it a few weeks ago. It could go the way of like, it doesn't go his way, or he can make it go his way. And I feel like he has the ability to make it go his way now, where I maybe didn't before.
Yeah. I think his second game back for Parramatta, I saw him taking on the line for the first time and God, it felt like 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like doing it frequently. And the most important part about that was he has his speed back.
Yeah.
Like he looked like he'd been struggling with his pace for a while, but man, he has always been lightning quick off those first 3 steps. And he's got that back. That speed off the mark is deceptive as hell, and he's got that back absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
His organising was so much better, and I have to say, his organising always looks better when he doesn't have Gutherson on the field.
Yes.
And I think it's because sometimes Gutherson either overcalls him or calls for the ball when Moses knows that it doesn't need to go to him at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it was so important that Tedesco didn't play in this game, because he can also be one of those people that calls for the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Edwards gets the ball when the halfback says you should have it. And
which is how it should be.
Exactly right. And that's why Edwards he just looked comfortable, because that was the one part that Moses was doing tonight that Cleary does very well at club football with Edwards, and that is, I'll give you the ball when I want you to have it, and I'm giving it to you because I want you to do what you do best. Not to be a link man, take on the line, set up your winger if you need to, or your inside man. That's what I want you to do. I don't need you to do any other crazy shit. That's it. So if I'm giving you the ball, boom, that's your job. And that's what Edwards did today.
And it worked with Luai as well.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. It's almost as though these like 100-year-long things that we've worked out with how to play rugby league, they keep working. And why would we go away from them ever? And like seeing the New South Wales team with the halves led by the halfback running the field, like they're in charge. They're not just stuck in one place the whole time. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. And the crazy thing is, we've gone away, thankfully. I mean, this didn't happen tonight, but we saw it in perfect display tonight. We have gone away over the last 2 years from this whole right halfback, left halfback nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone back to having a genuine first receiver who's organising things, and a second receiver. The second receiver is often in charge of, quite frequently the left-hand side of play, but it's not restricted to that.
Mm-hmm.
Luai's a good example because he will drift right, and he will often kick to the right-hand side. So the good thing about it is, though, that you try and put your best attackers outside. If you've got a good left-hand side attack, then you're going to be targeting your 5'8" a lot in attack, and he's going to get a lot of ball.
Mm.
If your right side attack's got like your better side for attack, your halfback's going to be running a lot more of the game, which is what we saw with DC at Manly for a long time. His right side was always a lot better than his left, so he just parked himself out there. But yeah, we're seeing the players, especially the halves, spending a lot more time in towards the middle, and Moses would at times sit back, like deep back. It almost looked like at times he was in position to kick a field goal, even though that wasn't the play and they weren't planning it.
Yeah,
but he was sitting that far back when he saw that Luai had a better chance. So he let the ball go to Luai when he called for it. So, and these are the little things that you saw from Moses that showed that he's definitely gone to a different level with his game plan. He's not trying to overplay his hand all the time, which was always his biggest problem.
Yeah, and I also think it comes down to the coaching of the New South Wales team as well. And you and me talked about the way that Fittler had whatever halves he was using, and he used a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
He did that thing where you park one on one side, one on the other, and we talked about how it was like they were strangers. They never met one another.
Yes.
And, so to see the New South Wales team return back to a situation where the halfback runs the show and he's linking with his 5'8", then he's linking with his fullback, and they're moving around the field and stuff, and they're going where they're needed, and they're probing the defensive line looking for something. It was amazing to see. And look, I think we would have seen that in game one as well of this series. If say Moses or Cleary had have been there, I just think Nicho Hynes isn't at that level, and that's fine. But it's good to see that we're back to that sort of football, because that's football. That's how you should play it.
Absolutely. No, look, I will disagree with Hynes. I think he would have had a similarly fine night. Not as good as Moses. No one's touching Moses tonight, but he'd have been perfectly fine tonight. He's just had the worst possible Origin career, and most of it has got nothing to do with what he's done, and you just can't help that.
So I think he's just. I don't think he's that good. I think he's a fair weather player.
That's fine.
Yeah. And that's all right, yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
If this was Twitter, we'd have a blood feud now.
I'm sure someone would have been murdered by now.
Yeah.
Would have sent each other's corresponding hitmen out to do a job.
The thing is, though, like Hynes is still bloody young, and he's only been playing halfback full time, like about 18 months, really. So he's still learning it. Even compared to Cleary, he doesn't have anywhere near the same experience as Cleary as a halfback. So he might get there one day, but just at the moment, I think he's a little. I tell you who he reminds me a lot of, Mitch Moses, about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah.
Shall we get into your ratings?
Okay, you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's start with the victorious New South Wales team, because New South Wales just gets Origin, so we'll start with them.
Okay.
I gave 7 to Dylan Edwards. I thought he was really, really good. He did make a mistake, and when I was going through and doing my ratings, I was like giving so many high ratings out because New South Wales did play so well. But I gave him a 7, and that's a good score. Keeping in mind, 6 is average, so 7 is above average. I thought he was really good in his debut.
I'd have given him 7.5.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think he did much wrong. I don't think he injected himself as much as he could have done.
Yeah.
But given the way New South Wales and the game went, he didn't really need to either. So
yeah,
it was all right. He did end up making the most meters for the match, I think, with 200.
I did. He went out. And I guess the other thing for him too is it wasn't one of those sort of games where he's going to be a gigantic meter reader because of the way it turned out. Like New South Wales had a lot of ball and stuff like that. Brian Toto, I gave a 9. Like, this guy I think his worst game, he's like the Cameron Smith of wingers. Like, his worst game is probably an 8. He just was outstanding. Stephen Crichton, I gave an 8. Latrell Mitchell, I gave an 8. He was great, so dominant, using his size properly, just dominated Holmes. It was such a good performance for him.
I kind of, every time I watch him play at centre, like at rep level, I kind of just want to see him do it at club level as well because he's just so good there.
Yeah. Yeah. If they could just, well, they've got that young fullback.
Yeah.
And he was handy. I can't remember his name right now at Souths. It's got to be something that Bennett might be thinking of, hey?
I certainly would, Mick. He's so devastating there. That sideline does not haunt him at all because he knows he's got the size and the power to hold his own in a tackle and not get pushed into touch.
Yeah, yeah.
His balance is unbelievable.
I think it's just because he's so strong. Like, did you see that tackle he put on Walsh?
Mate, he pulled out of it. He was doing a massive belly-to-back suplex. He went, I better hold up here. I was like, yeah.
He's amazing. He's so amazing. Zach Lomax, I gave an 8. Like, he did everything you would want him to do. He's great. Did he end up getting the scoring record?
No. I'd have given him 8.5, to be honest.
Okay.
So there's 2 players who have got more points in the game than him.
Yeah, let me guess. Remember. It's Ryan Girdler, and
I think Valentine Holmes. I can't remember.
I don't know for Queensland, but if no for New South Wales, it's Ryan Girdler, and he equalled the record of, I think it was Dally Messenger, or it could have been Churchill. It was one of the 2.
Let's have a look here. Where's that thing? Records. There it is. So we go down here. Most points in a match. Ryan Girdler had 32.
Yeah.
And then Nathan Cleary had 24.
Is that just for Origin, though?
This is just Origin.
Okay, yeah. I'm going New South Wales all time.
So he would have come in, well, I'll just do the Origin one. So he would have come in equal third with, where was it? Equal third with Michael O'Connor, Lottie Takuri, and Jonathan Thurston on 18 points.
Okay.
All up for New South Wales, though. Where is that? This is preparation at its absolute peak. Here we go. Records. Yeah.
You got it?
Most tries by a player in games. No. Match. Individual records match. Most points by a player in a game. Jim Craig, 36 points.
Wow.
And this is when New South Wales beat New Zealand Kings Country 87-16 in 1922.
It doesn't really count. Like, it does count.
Craig scored 2 tries and 15 goals.
Wow.
Games against Queensland, Dally Messenger, 32 points.
There you go.
Harold Horder, 31. Greg Horwick, 30.
Because I remember when Girdler did it, and he'd equal, and I couldn't remember if it was Churchill or Messenger, but I was pretty sure it was Messenger.
Yeah, Churchill wasn't much of a point scorer.
Yeah. And so I don't remember the Nathan Cleary one. Hey, that might be the game I was talking about before where he was just...
That was...
Had one of those games in Origin.
2022.
Yeah.
That's when he did that. Which one was it? Oh, that was when New South Wales beat Queensland in the second game, 44-12.
Okay. I
think it was over in Perth.
Yeah, because he had
2 tries, 8 goals.
He'd been, it might have been that game anyway, where he'd had not a great start to his Origin career, and a lot of it to do was the coaching that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But then he had he put on a game. It was like, holy shit. It was great.
It was.
Anyway, back to the ratings. So Lomax 8.
Yep.
I gave Jerome Luai an 8. It was another fantastic game from him. He was just couldn't ask better for him. Mitch Moses I gave a 9. And as I said, the only reason he didn't get a 10 is because it wasn't a Wally Lewis style game where he just dominated everything. Payne Haas, 8. I thought he was fantastic, physically dominant, especially in the first half. Great performance by him. Reece Robson, 7. I thought he was pretty solid. He didn't do a huge amount in attack, but I don't think he's really there for that, to be honest.
No.
Jake Trbojevic played a lot better than he did in the first game, and he gave us 6.
He still played fuck all minutes.
I know. Why do we keep picking him?
34 minutes.
What the fuck?
Doesn't even play full half of the footy game.
And when he was out there, it wasn't like he was standing out much either. You know?
No, this is what I've been saying though. Like he's always been a very consistent, solid player, but I haven't found in the last few years that he's at that Origin level anymore.
Yeah.
And it happens. It happens to all players, but I'm not saying he's fallen miles away from it.
Still a good club player.
Absolutely. But I just don't think he can be carried in this game anymore, especially if he's going to be a starting front or part of the front row rotation and only play 30 minutes.
No.
2 games in a row now.
We're down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you bring a Yo on and he's playing as the front rower now.
Yeah. Angus Crichton, I gave him an 8, and he was playing out there on that left-hand side, right?
Yeah.
And he's playing with Luai, and I know he's got fucking Latrell there, but then he's got To'o there as well. And I'm watching him, and I'm like, he's surrounded by all these Panthers players. He's off contract. I started getting chubby, you know. I started being like, oh. And I was like, I wonder if he feels it too, you know.
You're chubby.
Yeah, but apparently they never feel it. That's my feedback anyway. Liam Martin. I was
actually going to say Angus Crichton. I'd have given him 8.5 because I thought he was the second best player on the field.
That's fair enough. I wouldn't have argued with that. Like, I just
intense, man. So intense. He was fucking dominant and powerful all game, everywhere.
Just great. Liam Martin, I gave a 7, and the only reason he didn't get an 8 is because I started feeling like I was doing the wrong thing, giving everyone an 8. But then he also got sin binned for rubbing someone's hair. So if he's going to endanger players like that, I can't give him an 8.
There was a few things I actually said I was doing a live update. I actually said that he was being too forceful in his cuddling technique.
Yeah, 100%.
I find that when he starts to get a little bit too intense, he does get an awful lot of the Burgess about him where he just does stupid shit for no reason. And I want him to be intense without being an idiot.
Yeah, I talked to somebody on Twitter about this. He used to be a moments player where like he wouldn't really stand out and then he'd have a big moment, right?
Yeah.
And he normally would do it in a big game, which is the reason why he was so valuable in that role. And he's starting to add the more consistency to those big moments, but he still does have every so often a bit of a like, what was that? Honestly, getting sin binned for rubbing someone's hair is fucking ridiculous by the referee.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to say in the referee's defense, I think what he was decided to do was took that opportunity as a reason to try and get the situation under control. And in that context, it worked. Sure, the justification and the reason that he used to trigger that decision was utter garbage. But what he wanted was after 2 flare-ups in the space of 30 seconds, he's gone, I've got to get in control of this. And he found the 2 right people to do that too. Because I don't think there was anything I saw in any of that anyone deserved to get a sin bin for.
No.
But you could see too that after he pulled everyone apart from the first flare-up and they all ignored him, he had to put his foot down and make a decision to let everyone know that he was the one in charge. And so someone was going to get binned from both sides. The justification was probably going to be stupid, but in my view, it was the right thing that he had to do, not because it warranted a sin bin, but because he needed to show that he was in control of the game, and that was the best way to do it. Because it was fine after that. But Liam Martin, the best thing he could do right now for the way he needs to play his game is to watch how Angus Crichton played this game and go, right, I can be intense and aggressive all match, and I don't need to do the dumb shit.
You know what? I think the thing with him, though, is that in that Panthers side, it kind of works because everyone else is so steady, and then all of a sudden you've got this hand grenade out there in him. So I think it works for Penrith, but then he needs to augment it in sometimes at rep level. And look, we've seen, like, he was the best player in the World Cup final that Australia won.
Yeah.
So
but again, I mean, in that game, he didn't go over the edge.
Yeah.
Right? He's taking control. I mean, another person you can watch is James Fisher-Harris. You want to watch that power and that intensity, but without the stupid nonsense.
Yes. Can I also say, sorry, go on.
No, that's just what I'd love to see him do. If he could do that and cut out that little bit of garbage in his game, he would be the elite back rower in the competition.
Yeah. Also, can I just say, Ashley Klein's a dumb cunt. Fucking dumb cunt, bald idiot. That's just my opinion, though.
That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. And that's what we pay you for.
He's a dumb cunt. Yeah, that's why they pay us the big bucks. Yeah. Cameron Murray, 8, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Like, man, he was good. He was so damn good. Then we go to the bench. Connor Watson, 3. He come on when the game was over. Didn't really do much. Like, we got to stop selecting these Make-A-Wish kids.
I didn't know he was on the field.
Yeah, and he's playing the Orca.
Yeah, and he played half as many minutes as Jake Trbojevic, and I saw Jake Trbojevic on the field.
Oh shit! When he ran on the field, the Channel 9 commentators were like, he's done it tough, and he's such a good bloke. And like whenever they're saying that, it's like, yeah, he shouldn't be out there, man. Isaiah Yeo, I gave him 6. You know, he's coming off the bench. He didn't have a huge impact on the game. He wasn't huge, didn't play huge minutes or anything. He did his job and left, you know.
And he was out of position.
Yeah. So, Ola Kawatu, I only gave a 5. I thought he was disappointing again.
I didn't know he was on the field either.
Yeah. Considering what he does for the Manly Sea Eagles, where he's just horrible to play against, that's back-to-back really bad Origin games for him.
It was.
And his place needs to be under review. Spencer Leniu, off the bench, I gave him an 8. When he was on the field, I bet you fucking noticed him, hey?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the crazy thing is, only one of those bench players played more than 28 minutes.
Really?
And that was Yeo, and he played 48 minutes. Watson had 17, Ola Kawatu 19, Leniu 28.
I can understand it to a point because when it was working so well in that first half, like, you don't change what's working, you know, so.
That's true.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
I can't argue with too much of that. Okay. We'll be interested to see how these ones go, though.
Yes, the Queenslanders.
Keep
in mind, these are harsh ratings, but they don't really get Origin, so that's all it is. Yeah. Reece Walsh, 5, and that was being generous. He was caught out of position in defence a lot. Didn't do much in attack, but I'm not going to hold that too much against him because it was a game for the Queensland forwards, really, to get them out of a bad position. So what's he going to do in that position, you know? So I gave him a 5. Xavier Coates, I gave him 4. I thought he should have looked for a lot more work. He's a big dude, and his forwards needed him to come in. I gave Valentine Holmes a 3. I thought he turned into fucking Latrell Mitchell's bitch in this game.
He did quite a bit. Yeah. I didn't really see him doing anything really at all with ball in hand.
Yeah, he just kept on getting dominated, basically.
Yeah.
The Hammer, I gave him a 6, right? Now, keep in mind, he was off the field a lot. He got injured early in the match, and then he come back on the field, and it kind of took him about 15 minutes to get back into it, and then he started doing some stuff. So it's like he's basically gone from like a 2 to up to a 6 with a bung shoulder, which in my book is fucking amazing considering he looked gone for a little bit there.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have had him above 5, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Just he wasn't really as anywhere near as effective in attack as I thought he would be.
Yeah, yeah. Tulungi, I only gave him a 5, and it was going to be lower until he made that half break and put the kick across field to the hammer to score off of. He needs to look for more work like the New South Wales wingers do. That was a problem for Queensland. Their forwards wanted to pressure the entire game, and the outside backs I didn't think did enough to help them.
Yeah, look, he made almost twice as many meters for the match as Coates. So I suppose he was doing a little bit there, but a lot of that was kick returns, not so much one-out hit-ups and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does need to do more, what they would say, grunt work. It would really help get the forwards a bit of a breather so they can start making a bit of meters. And also, the reason why you get the wingers to do this sort of, hit ups and stuff is because they're quick enough to get the ball from out on the edges where they receive it and back in towards the middle so that the forwards don't have to fan out too much. And it allows them to rest but still do the hit ups at the same time, and they can get the whole line set. Yeah, and so Coates was he didn't have as many kick returns. So his 82 meters was mostly from hit ups. But that's 82 meters is just not enough for a winger in the modern game. And Tuolungi had nearly 60 of his 155 meters were kick return meters. So you know, his hit ups weren't that much better.
No, I look at like even Lomax is hitting the ball up pretty regularly, and you know what Toto does, and like that, two guys of this quality for Queensland, they need to be looking at what Toto's doing and being like, well, I've got to at least match what he's doing, even if it's impossible to get near. They need to be going in field like that, especially when your forwards are under the pump like they were in this game.
Absolutely.
Where am I at? Tom Dearden, I gave him a 3. He was like Mitch Moses just shut him down in this game, and he just didn't really do much of anything because of it. It was a real fantastic performance by Moses in that regard. Daly Cherry Evans, I gave him a 5. There wasn't really much to do that he could do in this game because he was behind a beaten forward pack. Just one of those days for a half, what are they supposed to do?
I probably would have given him 5.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ruben Cotter, I gave him a 5. I thought there were points in the game. He was all right, but then he was dominated by the New South Wales pack pretty badly.
Yeah.
Ben Hunt, I gave him a 4. He's in there for his attacking play for the most part, and for the most part he had to defend a lot. So, that's kind of what's he supposed to do in that situation.
Guess how many meters he made?
I'm going to say none.
No, 6.
6. Wow.
6.
Yeah. See, and he's not there to tackle.
No, what he needed to do, and I know it's not natural for him too much because he's generally a halfback, but he needed to be trying to make some inroads from dummy half.
Yeah.
Just to try and get the Blues defense on the back foot a little bit. But because they were just doing so much one-out stuff, the Blues defense was able to get set every single time. And so there was no change-up in the Queensland attack from the play the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that put more pressure on DCE.
Yeah, and it just wasn't the situation for a player like him at all. So, Lindsay Collins, I gave him a 6. I thought, he did all right considering.
I'd probably given him a 4.
Yeah.
75 meters.
Yeah.
When you need to get, when you need to get the ball moving, you need to get your team upfield, man. Your middle forwards need to be doing more than that. Cotter made 98 meters. Carrigan made 154 meters.
That's pretty good considering.
Collins 75. It's just not enough.
How many tackles did he make?
good question. Where's that stat on here?
Like all the Queensland forwards would have got through a lot of tackling. So,
Collins 32 tackles, Cotter 39, Carrigan 37. So you made the same amount of tackles as the other forwards.
Yeah.
It's not that he wasn't involving himself, but I think, you can always do a little bit more to help out. And I just felt like he wasn't. I don't know. I dare say he probably wasn't also on the field as much as Cotter was, but still.
You want more. You want
more. He was there for at least more than half the game.
Yeah.
You want a bit more than 75 metres from that much game time.
Jaden Sewer, I gave it 3. It was just MIA. That's what I wrote,
I'd probably would have given him a 4. He was similar-ish to Collins.
The thing is, though, like you and me are like, is he 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10? Like, I think that sums it up,
Yeah. Every now and then you're kinder than I am.
Yeah, which is... that's when it's warning signs for someone, when you're like, this fucking guy. Jeremiah Nanai, I gave him a 6 because he did start to have an effect in the second half with his running game. It was once again not really it was not the sort of game for a player like him, and he still managed to make some sort of impact. So that's why I gave him a 6.
Yeah, look, I found attacking wise, he wasn't as great as he usually is. Still handy enough, I guess.
Yeah.
But he did so much dirty work in defence.
Yeah.
46 tackles.
Yeah, that's crazy.
More than anyone else. And he's on the edge.
Yeah.
That's just nuts.
I gave Pat Carrigan, I gave him 6.
Yep.
Which is about the worst game he will ever play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was about his worst game that he'll play, but he was also probably the best player for Queensland on the field.
Probably, yeah. He also got sent off for, I don't know, sympathy reasons. I don't even know why he got sent for the sin bin with, I don't know what it was.
I had him down for incorrect cuddle technique. Yeah, he didn't execute it properly.
In that situation where the game is won, I would want to be the player that just was the psycho that started just punching the fuck out of everyone. And being that player, that's why he gets on from our drill. We end up having careers like Mark Geyer. Harry Grant, I gave him a 4. Is very much along the lines of he actually got a really bad cut on his forehead in a tackle. He had a head clash with a teammate. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit the same thing as Ben Hunt. Like, what's he supposed to do? Just tackle his ass off? There was nothing he could do, basically, in attack.
No, that's right. But he is more properly designed for that defensive style of play, given he is a genuine hooker.
Are we worried about Harry Grant's career?
No, I would have had Grant probably brought onto the field much sooner.
Yeah.
To try and save Ben Hunt, just in case there was a chance he might be able to get back in the match and bring Hunt back on later. Just knowing that that Grant's going to get through that defensive work and be a lot more effective defensively than Ben Hunt would have been. And I think it would have helped him out a little bit if they had made that change pretty early on, like when those points started to flow, around that 35-minute mark.
Yeah.
I'd have had Grant on probably just before then to try and stem that flow a little bit. And then you could have saved Hunt for the second half, which probably would have been a lot more helpful. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's the quietest game I've ever seen Harry Grant play.
Yeah. I think that, if you had told Billy Slater, even if you said the first 20 minutes New South Wales is going to be going off, I think he would have started with Grant.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that they've got them lined up where Hunt starts and Grant comes off the bench, it's almost like the luxury they've been able to afford because that normally doesn't happen. New South Wales normally starts really poorly.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit worried about Grant in that he should be the blue chipper. He should be the hooker in the game. And I don't know that he is. And he has everything you could want him to have as in his toolbox as a player, as a hooker. and I don't know that he is the elite hooker that he really should be, in my opinion. And that's what's worrying me about him, in that at some point you are the player you are. And it really should have been like Cameron Smith into Harry Grant, and I don't think we're there, and that concerns me.
No, I'm quite the opposite. I think he's definitely there. I think anytime you can take an elite player and put them in an absolute dog shit side and still have them prove to be elite, like Api Coruscant, that's when you know you've got a great player.
Would you pick, who do you think's a better player right now? Harry Grant or Api Coruscant?
Right now, I'd go Coruscant.
So would I. And that's the thing that concerns me about Harry Grant.
But it's not like you're setting a low bar either.
Oh, no, I'm not. He's a good player. But it's like, and we've talked about the, it's almost like the linear champion, the heavyweight champion, in terms of how it worked with hookers going back to the 90s. And you've got the linear champion, and after Smith, it was supposed to be Grant, and I don't think it is. And that really does. It concerns me, and I think he could be playing better. I guess that's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Fodawaker, I gave him a 7. I actually thought he was pretty good off the bench for Queensland.
Yeah, he was very strong off the bench. Very, very good game. Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Felice Kafusi, 3.
I'd give him 2.
Yeah. Is
2?
that like...
No, you know what? I might make it 1.5.
Oh, wow. Why 1.5?
Yeah. I don't know. All I remember from him was I remember looking at his hair going, you know what that hairstyle is? It's pension at the front, party at the back. I mean, that's all I remember of him. I saw him running downfield after a kick to put a tackle on. I think that's about it.
And that was it. The thing is, though,
I just saw his silly hairstyle and went, "Why are you here? Like you've got Gagai in your squad, and you put that bloke there. Why?" And I know they're different positions, but I'd rather have Gagai on my side, even as a fucking back rower, over Kafusi at the moment.
I love Gagai. Hey, he's so good.
Man, he is insane. The competitiveness of that bloke.
Yeah.
He's off the chart. And when it comes to Origin, man, he's just Dale Shearer Mark II.
I was
an Origin
just
jumper on him, and he just goes fucking insane.
If they named him in the third game, it would worry me.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he's going to play great.
Absolutely.
And the last dude, Kurt Capewell, I gave him a 4. They brought him on to replace the Hammer for a little bit out wide in the centres. And
Jeez, it would have been handy to have Gagai on the bench, wouldn't it?
I know, right? Somebody should have got knocked out. That's Reece Walsh's fault. And look, it's once again not the sort of game that they probably envisaged for him. And just, the games where your forwards on the bench and your rotation is like go in there and make, the best you can out of just being a defensive workhorse. Like, what are you supposed to do really in that situation? So yeah, I gave him a 4 out of 10, and that's all of my ratings.
Well, we weren't far off there. I think we largely agreed on nearly all of that.
Andrew's eating.
He is.
What are you eating?
A little strawberry mint that I got here. I've never tried them before. I thought I'd give it a go.
Are they good?
And I went, they're the Eclipse mint strawberry flavoured.
Yeah.
And, they go all right.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
They go all right.
It's
consumed now, but I thought, I'll get that out of the way.
I knew, you know what? I knew as soon as I stopped talking, I thought I got him in a muted mode. No,
I wasn't muted. I thought, no, people can listen to me chewing.
Okay.
I'm sure that's what they're here for.
I get the feeling you agree with a lot more of my ratings for this game than you did in game 1.
Yeah. I think we were a bit different in game 1.
Yeah. Which is all right.
Yeah. You did pretty well. You were pretty close to where you need to be.
Oh, thanks. Oh, geez, was I really? What changes? Were there any big changes you'd make for game 2 for either team? Like,
it's hard to justify changes to a New South Wales side that's just done that.
Yeah.
I think Jake Trbojevic does need to go.
Yep.
And Connor Watson.
Yep.
And possibly Olakau'atu.
Yeah, I agree with that. Olakau'atu had the chance to make a difference off the bench in a forward pack in the first game where they needed some go forward and was terrible. And in the second game, he had a chance to come on the field in a dominant side that was rolling and make an impact, and he was terrible again.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who you bring in for Trbojevic. There's not a mountain of, NRL quality props for New South Wales out there.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why Trbojevic is there in the first place.
Yeah.
Unless you're at Johns and you go, well, there's an awful lot at Newcastle you could pick.
We've got a bunch of Saifidis you can have.
Yeah. I'd probably consider, I don't know, Utica Manu has been improving in his form. I don't know if he's Origin level at the moment, but he could be in the conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
Something's got to be done though. We can't carry two big men and have neither of them playing many minutes at all. Like Olakau'atu had 19 minutes and Jake had 34.
Yeah.
They haven't even played an hour between the two of them. And then you got Connor Watson on there who also played just 17.
Yeah.
Those three guys combined still haven't played a full 80 minutes.
I think that Queensland would be horrified if we swapped Watson for Appy. That's the last thing they want to see happen. And so I think that we should do that. Utica Manu, I am willing to roll the dice with him because he's going to play better than Olakau'atu. And in terms of your starting front row to replace Jake Trbojevic, I mean, I'd have to really have a look at that. No one really jumps out at me at the moment. Unless you move someone like, and I wouldn't want to really do it, but unless you start looking at someone like you put Isaiah Yeo into that role and then you're playing with a much more mobile forward pack. And I don't know that the opposition is the correct opposition to be doing that against. This Queensland team has a pretty good size pack. I don't want to go in lightweight, you know what I mean?
No, that's exactly right. You can't go in with a lightweight pack. That's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. There's not a huge amount out there to really pick from as far as front rowers go.
Mm. I mean, they had Barnett. I guess he could do the job.
I'd be willing to give him a go.
Yeah. It can't be worse. Like if he can play some football, that'd be.
If you can get 50 minutes out of him, and he's solid, 50 minutes, and he gets 100 meters and 25, 30 tackles done.
Yeah,
that's an improvement.
Doesn't even have to stand out; just do the job.
Yeah, and that's a pretty standard game for most props.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that that's all we're asking for at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've got two players on the bench who aren't giving us that.
The crazy thing is that Olakau'atu, like when he plays for Manly, he's like
a weapon.
He's like 85% of Payne Haas, you know?
Yes.
He's $1 million prop. And
he really is.
And he plays for New South Wales, and he's like I said, he's had two opportunities that were different, but he had the opportunities and he did nothing with it. And it's like, oh man, this is so disappointing.
Fully agree. So yeah, that's probably the only change to make there. Queensland, they have to get Gagai back into the side. There's no two ways around it.
Who would you drop though? Would you drop Valentine Holmes? I think I'd drop Holmes.
I think that's probably the easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I'd probably drop I don't know, maybe Tuolangi, put Tabuai Fidau on the wing
Yeah.
and Gagai centre, or you could put Gagai on the wing because he can do that as well.
Yeah.
But he's got to be in there. His running game is just so strong. He runs unbelievable lines. So yeah, I'd probably do that. I'd contemplate moving Ben Hunt to 5'8".
Oh.
I don't think Dearden is atrocious, but he got owned in this game.
Yeah.
So I'd contemplate moving Ben Hunt to 5'8", have Harry Grant starting at hooker, and then you've freed up a spot on the bench as well.
Could I make a suggestion? And I don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
They'd only do this if they want to lose the series. Ezra Mam, 5'8".
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
What are they doing? Like, why is he should have been there this whole time, and the fact that he's not is a gift from heaven for New South Wales.
100%.
It's crazy.
Also, I don't know what they're doing with Felice Kafisi. Why he keeps getting picked.
Yeah, it's not 8 years ago anymore.
No, and even then he was intense, but gave away too many penalties and was too much of a liability even then. I don't think there's a huge amount you need to change with this Queensland side. They were just genuinely underprepared, and they lost their way early on in that game. And it took the halftime break for them to realise. Because they won the second half 18-8.
Yeah, it was, if New South Wales hadn't put on a record score in the first half, it was alarming how much Queensland scored in the second half.
Sorry, 18-4, not 18-8. Yeah, that's right. It was. It showed that Queensland definitely did have close to the right squad.
Yeah,
they just got. They just got monstered by a near perfect first half. There's just nothing you can do about that. Yeah.
I know Nadine said to me it reminded her a bit of the first half of the 2022 grand final where Penrith just put one on the Parramatta Eels and it was over.
I thought she was going to say a reminder of the first half of the West Tigers Raiders game last week.
Yeah. What did you? Okay, we've talked about Origin. Tell me about that. Because
I've actually not watched the game.
Oh,
because I was at work when it was being played. So I haven't seen it yet. But a mate of mine who I used to work with told me about it.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you must be happy with that." And I went, "Happy with what?" And he's going, "What do you mean?" I went, "What are you talking about?"
It's like the game, the Tigers game, and you're like, "What? Not watching it?"
So what happened? Did they lose again? They're playing Canberra. Nope, they won it. Oh, nice. Yeah, almost scored 50. Ooh.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch. And like knowing the way those contests normally go, I sat down and I was like, some weird shit's going to happen in this one. And then it looked like Canberra were going to start pretty good, and then it just didn't go that way. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Holy shit. And, yeah. And the Raiders just doing Raiders things.
Yeah, man, they made so many errors.
Yeah.
It was great to watch. And Parramatta's at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, and they got the bottom place after getting 2 free competition points during the bye. Yeah. It's just hilarious.
Got 2 free points and went down.
Went backwards, yeah. It's so funny.
Lovely. But no, that's about it. I didn't really hear anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's now the Tigers have now basically equaled their last 2 years for wins.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 4 wins. So one more, and they've done better than the last 2 years.
And it's just like, even watching them in the losses they've had, they're clearly better coached than they were last year.
Oh, miles better.
Like, anybody that can't see that is that either they're just a casual footy fan, and that's cool, but they don't really pay as much attention as like you and me do, and people that watch it as much as we do. But just like the structure of their attack, the structure of their defence, like they're not all over the place. They've got a plan. They might not always work. They might not. It might not. It might. But it's not just this rabble on the field. Like their plan just didn't work. So I think Benji's done a fantastic job, and it was cool to see him get another win under his belt.
Yeah, I agree. One of the near all-time great coaches is Benji Marshall. I mean, he's already shown up Tim Sheens.
Yeah,
a lot of people called him a super coach for a long time.
That's true.
Yeah.
I tell you what, he's out coaching what Tim Sheens did last year. Easy. It's not even close.
And he's done it with games to spare.
Yeah, and a worse squad.
Yeah.
Like, it's, he had to...
And with something with nearly 1,000 less games of experience as a coach.
He wouldn't have even been alive when Tim Sheen started his first grade coaching career, I would bet, hey?
Yeah, it's very close. If he was around, he would have only been like 2 or 3 at the most. But I don't think he was. So it's a pretty impressive start for a debut coach in a very young team who have come off 2 straight wooden spoons.
Yeah.
I find it crazy that people want to sit there and criticize him. Just seems nuts.
It's insane. It's insane. It's like when you look at some of the coaches in the NRL at the moment and you can see the teams that aren't great, and then you see what he's doing with a lineup that is not very good, and they're literally trying to get rid of at least half a dozen players off their contracts as soon as they can. And yet they're not horrible like they have been. They're just not a good footy team, but they're not that helpless horrible that they have been.
Yeah, it's good to see. As I said, like it's giving all the Tigers fans hope.
Yes,
which is something we haven't had for over a decade, and it feels foreign. And you go, hang on, something bad's supposed to happen.
Nothing bad's going to happen. Although on the 2nd of November, if fucking Galvin signs with someone else, I wouldn't be shocked.
Nah, we got him locked down. This is a crazy thing, actually. The media was going on about how he wanted to get out of the club.
Yeah.
And then Richo signs him and extends him.
Mm.
And then there was a news article that came out just a day or 2 ago that said that Galvin is now in talks with other players at the West Tigers to get them to convince them to stay at the club. It's like, make up your fucking minds.
I know, right? It's crazy.
That was just one of those stories. You saw it over the space of 2 weeks. It shows you how much the journalists are guessing. And it's driving them wild because they're not getting a single drop of actual information out of the club anymore. And it's great to see because it says the club should run.
Yes. Whereas, it was just like they were an open book the last number of years before the change. And who's not there?
There's no spuds and no hat stands.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Newcastle Jets fans, Jesus. Should we do a quick rundown of who we think will win the games for the rest of the weekend coming up?
I think we should.
Yeah, you got time to do that? I know it's getting late for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so we've got the Bulldogs versus Sharks.
Yep.
The Bulldogs have not conceded 30-plus points in any of their last 14 games, which is their longest such run since the 21-game streak they had from round 15, 2013 to round 10, 2014.
Oh, wow.
It's their best defensive run in a decade.
Wow. I think I might be leaning towards the Bulldogs, hey?
Yeah, I'll head towards the Sharks because they are a bit of a hoodoo team for the Dogs. So
okay.
Sharks have won 12 of the last 14 games against them. Sharks are pretty bad off a bye, so I don't know. I'll lean towards the Sharks just a little bit. It'll be very close and probably high scoring too.
I'm looking forward to it.
It will be a good game. Warriors versus Broncos.
This is like the battle of the teams of like, at some point you are who you are cup, you know? And the Warriors, for all of the talk about like, oh, we're just in a bit of a trot and stuff. And the Broncos are a little bit in that point too of this season. Like, I still worry about the Broncos as one of the best teams in the competition, but at some point they are who they are. And whoever loses this game, it's going to, I dare say this season might be over. I'm going for the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos here, but it could be high scoring but close. Knights versus Eels. Parramatta have won their last 6 games against the Knights by an average score of 30-9.
Wow.
The last time the Knights lost to a team placed 17th was in 1996. I think after that performance by Mitch Moses, Parramatta's going to do a job on the Knights.
Yeah, it's funny. Before you gave me them stats, I was like, why am I leaning so hard towards the Eels? Like, this feels like not even a close one to me. And then you gave me them stats, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I'm going for the Eels. Yeah, I'm like you. I think Mitch Moses will have got a huge amount out of that performance. And if I was the Eels as a club, I would look at his performance and I would say we need more of that and less of the hands flying in the air and Gutherson thinking he runs this club.
Yep. Storm versus Raiders. The Raiders have won 8 of their 14 games at Amy Park.
I got to pick the Storm. I know the stats.
Oh, no. I'm picking the Storm here by a comfortable amount.
Yeah, I could see this being a fucking disaster for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have a few drinks while I watch it.
Sounds good. Dragons versus Dolphins. The Dragons have won 13 of their last 30 games at Netstrata Stadium, which is the old Cogra. Mm-hmm. And the Dolphins have won just 3 of their 11 games outside of Queensland.
I can't not go for the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Dolphins. Panthers Cowboys. Penrith have won 60 of their last 73 games at Penrith Stadium.
That doesn't even make sense.
Cowboys have scored 38 points in their last 5 games combined at the same ground, which is just 7.6 points per game.
Penrith have like win-loss stats that are like a basketball team, hey?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like a really good one, like the Warriors when they won 73 games. I'm
going Penrith to put 40 on here.
Yeah. I think that I know it's going to rain on the morning of the match, but I think that it's going to be all right during the afternoon.
Yeah, it won't matter.
I just feel like it might be a Penrith. There's little whispers, and I don't think they're true, that Cleary might be back for this one, but I don't think he will be. But if he is, and you get all those Origin players back, I think they could put it on the Cowboys.
And last of all, Roosters v Tigers. Roosters have won 21 of their last 23 games against the Tigers since 2010. And on 14 of those 23 occasions, they've scored at least 30 points.
Ugh. It's hard to not pick the Roosters, isn't it?
Yeah, Tigers 40-10.
Here we go.
Tigers have won 2 games in a row.
You should get some, like you should do a little bit of a withdrawal on the house, right? And put it on that score line with whoever decides to sponsor our podcast, and just retire off the winnings.
That's the plan. How many times can you mortgage a house in a year?
I'm sure if you just go in later on, just say, darling, I've got this really good financial thing I've just made. The bank's going to call. They want your signature. Just sign off on it. Don't worry about it. I got it covered.
Sportsbet's going to call.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay, I've got it under control. It's all good.
I'm an expert. You've got to realize I'm an expert.
An expert. That's right. This is fact. Alrighty. Well, I suppose that wraps this one up. Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on all the socials. Check us out on YouTube especially. Subscribe and like everything over there. and we'll catch us all next time.